Leaving a person behind at night at a remote gas station in a foreign country is the ultimate nightmare for any international driver. But what is even worse is when you are 100% sure that all your passengers are on board, you confidently step on the gas, pull onto the highway, and a good hour later, a police car with flashing lights catches up to you at breakneck speed and abruptly blocks the road. Andrei held the steering wheel of his brand new black Mercedes Sprinter tightly as he drove out of Krakow toward the German border. The interior of the minibus was sleeping soundly and sweetly after a short night stop. Outside the window, the rare lights of the Polish Autobahn flashed monotonically. A tedious autumn rain rustled, and everything looked absolutely perfect in the rearview mirror. Even rows of dark silhouettes quietly and peacefully snoring in their seats. Andrei was already mentally calculating the schedule, checking the mileage, and thinking about how much time it would take for the next stretch to the border. Suddenly, the dead silence of the night was shattered by the sharp, piercing sound of a siren. Out of nowhere, a Polish road police crew appeared behind them. Blue and red lights blinded through the mirrors, reflecting on the wet asphalt. And a clear, strict command in Polish echoed through the loudspeaker. "Minibus driver, pull over immediately!" Andrei's heart sank into his boots in a single second. He definitely had not been speeding, keeping it exactly at 110 kilometers per hour. All the vehicle documents and licenses were in perfect order, and there was no contraband or extra cigarettes in the trunk. Smoothly, trying not to frighten the passengers, he stopped the heavy Mercedes Sprinter on the asphalt shoulder of the high-speed highway. The police car parked at an angle right in front of the bus's hood, completely blocking any possibility of leaving. A stern officer in a reflective vest stepped out of the front left door and walked quickly toward the driver's cabin. Andrei rolled down the side window, preparing the documents for inspection. But what happened next was the strangest and funniest part. The rear door of the police patrol car slowly opened, and from it, smiling guiltily and awkwardly, holding a half-eaten large hot dog with mustard in his hands, stepped Ihor. This was the very student who, by all of Andrei's calculations, was supposed to be sleeping soundly in the third row of seats by the window right now. The interior of the minibus woke up instantly from the bright light of the headlights and the loud sounds of the police radio. People rubbed their eyes, understanding nothing, and looked out the windows in amazement at their missing fellow traveler. As it turned out a bit later, during a short technical stop at a large gas station near Krakow, Ihor had quietly slipped out of the bus into the restroom without warning anyone. At that time, Andrei was fueling the vehicle outside and going to the cash register to pay for the diesel. Before setting off, the driver entered the dark cabin and quickly counted the passengers by their heads. But in the dark of night, with the lights off, Andrei made a classic mistake. He mistook Ihor's huge winter backpack, which the boy had left on his neighboring seat and covered with a dark jacket, for the outline of a living person's head and shoulders. Thinking that the guy was just heavily hunched over and sleeping, Andrei calmly closed the heavy sliding door of the Mercedes, started the powerful engine, and confidently drove further along the route. The poor student ran out onto the street with a hot dog and a bottle of soda at the exact moment when the red taillights of his minibus disappeared irrevocably around the bend of the high-speed highway. His phone, as luck would have it, remained in the cabin on charger, and he had only a few zlotys and his passport in his pocket. To his enormous fortune, local Polish patrol officers were drinking hot coffee at that same gas station at that time. Seeing the terrified guy running after the bus in the parking lot with a sausage in his hands, they instantly understood everything, put him in the back seat of their official car, turned on the sirens, and rushed in pursuit of the Sprinter. Andrei stood on the shoulder, watching Ihor squeeze past the policeman and approach the bus door. The police officer, who initially looked very stern, couldn't help but laugh out loud across the whole highway. He tapped his finger on his cap as if hinting to Andrei that he should count passengers better and wish them a safe trip. When Ihor finally entered the cabin, a dead silence reigned there, lasting literally a few seconds. And then the Mercedes simply exploded with laughter. Absolutely everyone woke up. Even the gloomy migrant worker Alexei in the front seat, who usually never smiled, was laughing so hard that tears came to his eyes. "Well, astronaut, is the hot dog tasty?" someone shouted from the back row. Ihor turned red as a beet, quickly walked to his seat, and literally squeezed into the chair, trying to become invisible. He hugged his ill-fated backpack, which had almost cost him an international scandal, and quietly finished his already cold dinner. Andriy sighed heavily, shook his head, closed the door, and brought the minibus back onto the highway. The fear and tension that had gripped him during the police chase were completely replaced by incredible relief. The night highway after this incident no longer seemed so monotonous and boring to the passengers. Everyone's sleep was gone in an instant. People began to actively discuss the event, sharing their own similar stories from past trips. Pani Maria, the elderly woman traveling to France, took homemade cookies out of her bag and handed them to Ihor, saying, "Eat, son, eat. It's a good thing their police turned out to be so kind. Otherwise, you'd be crowing there at the gas station until the very morning." Students Marta and Denise teased the guy nonstop, asking what brand of hot dog possessed such magical power that people were willing to call a police escort with flashing lights for it. Ihor himself was also beginning to slowly recover from the shock and smile. He said that when he saw the taillights of the Mercedes disappearing into the fog, his whole life flashed before his eyes. He seriously thought he would have to walk all the way through Poland back to the border. When the police approached him, he forgot all the Polish and English words he knew out of fear and just pointed his finger down the road, shouting, "Bus! Mercedes! Paris!" Fortunately, the Polish law enforcement officers turned out to be people with a great sense of humor and instantly rushed to help. The black Mercedes Sprinter rolled smoothly forward, cutting through the thick night fog with its powerful LED headlights. The rain outside the window finally began to subside, leaving only small drops on the windshield, which the wipers quickly cleared. Andriy now glanced in the rearview mirror from time to time, but this time he didn't just count passengers by their silhouettes. Now, at every technical stop, he turned on the full lights in the cabin and demanded that each passenger personally speak up or raise a hand. Driving experience is something acquired precisely through such curious and sometimes dangerous situations. This case became a good lifelong lesson for Andriy. He had been working on international routes for over 5 years, had seen a lot of things: lines at the borders, engine breakdowns in the middle of a field, and capricious clients. But having the police deliver a forgotten passenger right to the Autobahn, that had happened to him for the very first time. He mentally thanked his Polish colleagues for their promptness, because if they hadn't caught up with him, he would have had to turn back, lose several hours of precious time, and disrupt the entire arrival schedule in Paris. The journey to Paris continued. There were still many kilometers of German boundless autobahns and picturesque French roads ahead. But the passengers of the black Mercedes will definitely remember this trip for a long time. The atmosphere in the cabin became incredibly friendly and warm. People who just a few hours ago were absolute strangers and didn't even look at each other were now communicating as if they had known each other all their lives. They shared food, talked about their families, about what each planned to do in France. Alexei talked about his work at the construction site. Marta and Denis shared plans for studying at the Sorbonne, and Pani Maria asked the youth about modern phones and the internet. Even Ihor became the center of attention, and his nightly adventure turned him into a real hero of this route. They drove further, leaving Polish cities and gas stations behind, and the story of the forgotten student and the kind patrol police became the main topic of conversation all the way to the final stop. When the minibus finally approached the German border, the first rays of the morning sun began to pierce the night clouds. Andriy announced another stop at a large rest complex. This time, as soon as the vehicle stopped, Ihor was the first to raise his hand and say loudly, across the whole cabin, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting right here all the way to Paris." The cabin exploded with laughter again. The passengers went outside, stretching and breathing in the fresh morning air, and Andriy walked up to Ihor and handed him a hot coffee he had just bought at the station. "Here you go, traveler," the driver said with a smile. "This is for your strong nerves. Next time, at least warn me when you want a coffee or a hot dog." Ihor took the cup gratefully and promised that now his backpack would always lie only on his lap, so that no one would ever mistake it for a person again. International routes are not just transportation from point A to point B. It is always a small, separate life, full of surprises, night autobahns, chance encounters, and stories that are then told to friends and acquaintances over a cup of tea for years. Every trip leaves its mark. Every passenger brings something of their own to this road. Andriy smiled at his thoughts, pressed the gas pedal harder, and the powerful black Mercedes Sprinter confidently went to overtake another large European semi-truck, keeping a clear course to the west, towards a new day and new roads. When you are traveling in a night bus, always check if all your things and friends are in place. And never forget that the road does not forgive carelessness, but sometimes it gives us stories that make our lives much brighter and more fun. Take care of yourselves on the road. Keep an eye on your fellow travelers, and may your trips always end only with happy smiles and timely arrivals.